Hello and welcome to All About Community. My name is Robert L. Harris and I am your host. This is an exciting time. It's an exciting time because it is Black History Month. Started off as Black History Week. For those of you who don't know, Carter G. Woodson was the founder of Black History Month. Since that time, it has become very, very clear to everyone, at least those of you who want to see, that Black history is American history, and we should remember that. I am so disgusted at the fact that after we built this nation was built, in case you didn't know, on the backs of black folks who slaved in slavery. But as a result, we are now in a position to get not only the right to vote, but to have a real impact in the outcome of elections. To that end, on January 6, 2001, Trump and his cronies tried to stop us from having our votes count in the presidential elections. He sent in, Trump did, a crew of treasonous, seditionists, and others to overturn the results of that election. I say that Trump and his cronies, as despicable as they are, ought to be held accountable for every crime that they committed. Let me not get carried away. That is not why we're here today. We're here today to talk more about Black history, and I have as my guest, and really one of the outstanding persons who once was in the media, George Strait. George Strait, welcome to All About Community. I hope I didn't upset you with all that commentary.
I'm ready to go out marching now. Let's get out there. It's great to be with you, Bob.
Let's chat for a moment about your background, your education, where you were born, etc.
So I'm a Yankee. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and born and raised there. And went to high school, went to college there. I went to graduate school in Atlanta, which is where I met my wife. And after I completed my graduate studies, I was newly married and I needed work. couldn't live with my in-laws, so I drove a cab.
Oh.
And so I was driving around. Remember the days of coffee breaks?
Yes.
So it was summertime, and it was about 10:30. It was about coffee break time, and I took a fare up to this building, and it happened to be the building where my wife was had a summer job. And so I went in and went down and had coffee, and the postman it was a two-building complex. The postman for the building, a guy by the name of Ogletree, African American, he said, "What are you doing driving a cab?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking for work." And so I said, upstairs at a radio station, they're looking for a disc jockey. Well, I'd done a little bit of that in my in college, but that wasn't a career for me. I was going to get a PhD and go off and discover stuff. So I went upstairs and met this fellow, this Jewish fellow. His name was Blum. And he took me back in the production room, found out that I could read and speak clearly the English language. And I was on the air the next night, midnight to 6. It was a two-man show. And a couple of weeks later, I was the disc jockeys played in a celebrity basketball game. And the company that owned the radio station also owned a television station. This was the white radio station. This was not the black radio station. This was the #1 white rocker. It was FCC. They needed to have African Americans employed, and there weren't any. So I was the first. It's a lot like you. The folks of our generation, we were the first and the onlys for a long time.
Right.
And so after the basketball game, the news director from the television station said, "I just lost my sports guy," and so I dropped.
And don't tell me he called on you.
No, I raised my hand.
Now let's talk for a moment about the Black history, the role of Black history. Why is that important to you?
Well, as we were talking about before we came on the air, I don't know what white folks do during Black History Month, but I know an awful lot of black folks like myself, and I know you too. We look back at our history, and so I was going through my father's old pictures. My father was raised by his grandmother, who was born in 1869, and I knew her well. I was about 17 when she died, and I saw a picture of her mother. And I had never seen this before, so I started digging and digging and digging, and I've been able to now trace my roots back to an Englishman from somewhere in England. His name was John Gardner. He came to the United States with one black slave, a woman.
Wow.
And they all settled in Bristol, Virginia. But I've got a much more contemporary interest in it. The Smithsonian's Museum of African American History and Culture. My youngest son is the segregation curator, and when the museum opened, he was the music curator. So if you've ever been there, you go to the top floor and see all this music stuff.
Yes.
That's my son's stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
We're talking with George Strait. We're going to come back in just a moment, and when we do come back, we're going to talk about how he got into the news media. As one of the first reporters with ABC News. So don't touch that remote. Matter of fact, just put it down, put it down. We will be right back with All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris, and my guest is George Strait.